I just got this skid steer. I drove 500 miles to get it from Pennsylvania. This is the cheapest track skid steer I could find on Marketplace. And it's a CTL60, the Gehl, which is equivalent to, and I think it's even the same exact machine as a TL130. So this is a little less than 8,000 pounds. The reason I got this so cheap is because it doesn't run right. The guy said it needs all new filters, but I checked and most of the filters are actually good. So what I'm thinking right off the bat, I think what's going on with this, you could probably hear it in the video, the way it was running. But it's kind of like missing as it's running, and it's low on power, and it's smoking. So what I think is going on, I started to investigate the fuel lines, and I think what's going on is I'm getting air in the fuel. So we have this like makeshift fuel line splice right here. I don't know what's going on with that, but that doesn't look too good. And then as you go deeper in the engine, I think somewhere behind this radiator is going to be a problem with the fuel line. It's probably got a little pinhole somewhere where it's pulling in air. Now this engine is a Yanmar engine, and it's got an auto bleed system on it. So if it gets air in the line, it's not just going to stall like a lot of other diesels would. It'll just keep bleeding it out as it's going. On this machine, there's going to be the water separator right here. This is a little lift pump, and this is going to be an inline diesel filter. I think what's happening is before the lift pump, there's going to be a leak somewhere, and it's pulling in air. I think this is all good here. I think where the problem is, because this is all before the lift pump. This line right here comes from the tank. It goes around and up and to this first water separator, and then it goes down to the lift pump, and then it goes down to this inline filter. So I think our leak is going to be somewhere right here, from here to the tank, I think is where it's going to be. And I can see why they never fixed it, because it's probably a lot of work to get in here. Like, I can open this radiator a little bit, but then the hose kind of stops you. So I gotta kind of dismantle things a little bit here. I think before I even do that though, I'm going to lift the cab. I paid 17 grand for this. The guy wanted 19.5, but I got him down to 17. I think it's a pretty good deal. Right now, it's really hard to find track skid steers for a decent price. Actually, any machine for that matter is just really expensive, kind of hard to find. And if you don't find it in the first 2 hours it's out, you don't even have a chance. And if you're not ready to go with the cash on hand, ready to leave like within 2 hours, then somebody else has already got it. So that's the way it's been going on Marketplace. Alright, now back there, we need to put a locking pin in.
Okay.
Okay, so go back there.
Okay, you got it?
Yeah, I got it. Go back there, see how it swivels?
Okay, I see.
And there's one that you can put a locking pin in.
Okay. Can I just use this thing?
Yeah.
No skid steer. How much?
Oh, they all do that?
Trying to help. A little bit more.
Is there a thing that good?
There you go. Good. Lock. This is bad, or it should help you lift it.
One of the first things I'm going to do is put a clear tube after this pump and before this filter, just so I can see if there's any air bubbles going through. So now all I have to do is put the key in the on position, and this should start pumping. so there's very little flow out of here. So maybe it's not the air, maybe it's just not getting a lot of flow. All right, so the bad news is that there is no filter on this system. Somebody disabled it. They bypassed it. There's supposed to be a filter setup right here, and it's not there. And so the line coming from the tank, which the diesel tank is right here, there's a line right here that comes from there, and it doesn't look like a factory line. It looks like somebody put that in there, but that goes directly to the bottom of the tank and then directly over to the water separator. So I think we have a little bit more problems than I thought, because now we probably have dirty fuel. I'm gonna have to put some sort of inline system. I mean, I know there's an inline filter over there, but that's not really good enough. We need to put like an actual spin-on filter system in here. I don't know why somebody took it off. Probably to try to do process of elimination. Hopefully they didn't run it too long like that, because then I'm looking at a new injector pump, and from the looks of it, there's a bolt missing on the injector pump right there. So it looks like they messed with that too. So at this point, I've run this for a while with this clear line on here, and I got all the air out. I tried hooking it up to another temporary tank, and I ran it for a while, and it's still doing the same thing. So I think at this point, we're looking at something to do with the fuel injection. So in order to do a compression test in here, I need to take out the injectors. So what I'm going to do is take out the injectors and bring them in and have them tested. And I can also do a compression test too, but the dealer for this will actually test these for free. So I'm just going to go, the first step is just get them out and bring them over to the dealer and have them test them out, and then we'll see where we go from there. I just want to clean up this area so I don't get any debris in the valve cover area. I don't know what happened there, but I don't think this is going to cause it not to run right. These are just seals that seal the oil out from coming out around the injectors. That really shouldn't affect anything, although I'm going to replace them anyways. Alright, now let's see here. Alright, go ahead and spin around. Oh yeah, you're going clockwise, by the way.
I'm going clockwise.
Okay, I'm just making sure you know. Yeah, it's kind of a pain. Go nice and slow, real slow, like super slow. Oh, I see the marks, but it doesn't say TDC on it. Okay, here we go. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Just another hair. A little bit more. A little bit more. Right there. All right. I think yeah. So that means number one. It says 1/4. So that means 1 and 4 should be on top dead center. I'm pretty sure. Let me check the chart. Here, hold on. Let's just do a visual inspection of this though. Before I even take these out. You never know what you could find in here. Oh wow, look at that. That's definitely something wrong. And from the front side here, because this is the cylinder that's all the way on the front. Look at that. There's a problem right there. It's not even on the push rod. Kind of like wore a little bit of a groove in the housing of this rocker here, but I don't think anything's actually damaged. I think somebody put this back together. That push rod doesn't even look damaged. The top of it still got a cup in it. Looks fine to me. I think we could loosen this up, put it back on track, and then I'll adjust the valves, and I think this is the problem right here. I don't even think I need to take the injectors out. I think it's worth putting this back together at this point after adjusting this and see if that's the problem, because I think it is. Wouldn't that be good? That'd save me a whole lot of time and money. Alright, so there's an actual valve clearance, and then there's also a valve bridge. So this right here is the valve bridge, and this is the rocker arm for the valves. So on this cylinder, I don't know if this is cylinder 1 or 4, but it's one of them. It's on the end here. Since this was loose right here, this is also loose, and it's just like flopping around. This valve bridge is supposed to have no clearance, 0 clearance. Oh man, that's not good. Oh. Okay, so upon further inspection, I realized that the valve bridge is not up to par here. So basically that's supposed to have like a little cup to hold itself on, and it does not have that anymore. I was trying to loosen up this nut to adjust it, and the whole thing broke. This little dowel piece was actually sheared off right at the head, so hopefully I can get a magnet and get that out or something. I don't know, but Hopefully that's not crazy to get into. All right, so let me bring you up to speed here. Last night when I was messing with this, I was trying to loosen this nut to adjust this valve bridge. In the midst of trying to loosen it, what I did is break off the pin that holds it in place. That's a valve guide. That's a valve bridge guide, and it broke it flush into the head. So I almost had this together in like another hour. I would have had it running, but I broke that piece. So now I need to try to extract that piece out of there, and it's broken off flush, so it's hard to see right now, but this is the one next to it. So what I need to do, I think, to make this easier is I'm going to take this fuel injector out and the holder for it, and then I can access it easier. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt anyways to drill and tap it, and then I'm going to put a piece of threaded rod in, and I'm going to use a sleeve, and I'm going to like try to pull it up this way because it's like pressed in there. So I'm going to try to, the hardest part is going to be tapping it, and then once I can do that, I'm pretty sure I can pull it up with just this sleeve right here. And you just basically put it around it, and then you just tighten up the nut on this threaded rod, and then it should just extract it out of there. So I got a new valve bridge assembly, which you can see the top is pretty beat up. The top is supposed to be like that, and it's supposed to have that little piece in there that just, I don't know what that's called, but it's supposed to have that in there, and that will never fit that again. Plus it's supposed to retain it on the bottom. It's supposed to be like a cup that kind of holds it in place so it doesn't spin around. So this is completely shot. So I need a new valve bridge assembly and a valve bridge guide. So you can see I sheared it off right there. So let's see if I can get this one out. That's gonna be the trick, because if I don't, I gotta pull this head and probably bring it to a machine shop. I mean, I guess I could try drilling it out. If for some reason it doesn't hold with the threads, maybe if it's too soft of a metal and it doesn't hold, I can try just drilling it all out, but I don't know what's beneath it. I don't know if it goes down below to like the head gasket area to the block, or if it just goes a little ways and then stops. I'm not sure. I think it's got oil in it, so it probably connects to the oil jacket. So drilling through it is not ideal because it's going to get shavings in it. So that valve bridge guide is right here. It's right in between these two valves. Now ideally, I wanted to take this fuel injector out, but you know, if I gotta do that, I gotta reseal the whole thing, and I'm just gonna try this without even doing that. I can get the drill in there, so I'm just gonna try it. Look at all that. Sweet. Well, there it is. There it is. That is so nice. I could barely sleep last night thinking about this. That came right out, no problem. That is awesome. So that's the hardest part of the whole thing. So I called the Gehl dealer and they wanted like, they said between 2 weeks and 3 months to get this part. So then I called Yanmar, which was a different part number, which is what got me confused. I found the right part number for Yanmar, and yeah, they can have it overnight, so no problem. So tomorrow I should be able to put this back in. But that was definitely the hardest part right there. But now I know how far they got to go in too, so I can make a mark on the new one and put it in. That is awesome though. I didn't even have to take out any injectors, didn't have to take out the rocker arm assembly. So that is wonderful. So that got me really excited now. So now it's all downhill from here. So since I'm waiting for the parts to come in for this machine, what I'm going to do is address this lack of fuel filter situation that we got here. So I need to add another filtration system. I don't even know where the old one was. I had a few hints that said it was like above the engine there, but I really have no idea. So I'm gonna build my own as just as simple but effective as possible. So I'm thinking that this little spot right here is a nice spot for a filtration system. So I actually have 2 threaded holes here already. So I think what I'm going to do is just make a plate to go on here with the holes to match this, so I can bolt it on to the frame here. And there's a tank on the other side, so it's good that those are there, because I didn't want to like have to drill through and try to either weld a nut on here or like put a bolt through with a nut on the other side. So this works out good. So the first thing I'm going to do is get a plate put on here, and then I'm going to build a bracket for just a regular simple spin-on filter adapter here, like you would have like on the fuel tank. Like on my truck I have one of these for the diesel tank I have in the back. And then, you know, it just takes a regular spin-on filter, and we already have a water separator on the system, so we don't need that. I actually got a 2 micron filter, which would really filter this down nicely, but I don't think I have room for that, so I think I'm going to end up using this 10 micron filter system. And I was reading online about it, and I guess if it's mechanically injected, then 10 micron is fine. So this is, the fuel injection system is not run by a computer or anything, so I think we'll be fine with this 10 micron one. I could just return this. The hardest part about this whole process is going to be mounting this system, because there's nothing here to mount to. And I could probably order something online, but I don't feel like waiting like 3 or 4 days for it to come in. So I just picked this up at Tractor Supply. air filter still goes in. I can still get to all these hoses if I need to replace them. The hoses down here, if I need to replace those, I can get those. This, when it swings open, doesn't hit that. So I guess that's good to go. The filter spins on pretty easily. I mean, it's a little bit tight with the height of it, but it works. So with the cab up, it allows me to get to the front side of the motor here, and that's where I need to be to do the work. So I put this little foam knee pad thing here, so I'm not kneeling on hydraulic pumps, and it's not bad working in here, honestly. Here's a new part, and I'm going to use this little brass fitting to put this in. I don't have a copper hammer or anything like that. I don't want to damage the end of this. I don't want to peen it over, so I want to use a softer metal. One end, I'm going to use this one as a guide, put it right next to it to see how far I need to go. I'm adjusting this valve bridge first so that there's no clearance, and then once it's snug up, basically I'm balancing it between the two valves. Once that's done, I can actually adjust the valves. I go from a clearance right down to nothing, and then it starts lifting up. Right at that point before it starts lifting up, that's where I want to tighten this down. So I got a clearance right there. It makes contact. So now I can tighten up the nut on the top, and that's where I want to be. So now I can actually adjust the valves. So I'm going to go with a 8/1000. So I don't know if this was the cause of the problem of this whole thing. Maybe this got wrapped around one of the valves and did something to make it come loose, or I don't know, maybe somebody just didn't have things tightened up right, or maybe somebody took apart the rocker assembly and just forgot to put the push rod in there. I don't know what the cause of all this was, but this is definitely a possibility, just these hanging down here getting caught up in something. Okay, so now I think I know why those seals were damaged, because it's really hard to get this valve cover on here with these seals in. You know, it's easy enough to just pop them out and pop them back in. So that's what I had to end up doing. I think that's why somebody damaged it, because they didn't know that and they were just kind of like forcing it on there. But these are easy enough to take out and put in again. I got this all put back together and it's almost worse than it was before. Now it's smoking a lot more. You can smell it's just pure unburnt fuel the whole time. So that definitely was a problem, but something caused that problem and I don't know what that is. So we got to figure that out, because this cylinder is not firing. When I had the valve cover back on, I would crack this injector loose and two things would happen. Number one, nothing would happen. But one thing that it did show us is that when I cracked this loose, I turned it like a full revolution and a lot of fuel was squirting out of there. And when I did that, it stopped smoking so much. It only smoked a little bit. So that tells me that either the timing is wrong and it's getting fuel when it shouldn't, or the cylinder has no compression in it. I suppose there is a few other options, but those are the two that I'm trying to concentrate on right now. So I just took the fuel injector out of there and look at all the metal shavings around the fuel injector. That's pretty bad. So I can see down to the piston. I can't see any kind of shavings down there, but there's definitely some shavings up here in the housing that the fuel injector goes into. I've been working on this a while off camera, trying to figure out what's going on with this. So let me bring you up to speed again. This cylinder is not firing. For a little while, these rockers kept loosening up, which made me believe that maybe the exhaust valve wasn't fully seating because of carbon deposits. So let me actually rewind here. So what I figured out, this is the intake valve. There's actually two of them, but they're on a bridge, so they both go together. That intake valve has been closed for I don't even know how long, because that push rod wasn't over here. That was just making these valves close, which is the up position, because they weren't being pressed down every time they needed to. So without the intake, there's no combustion, but the exhaust was opening up. So what I'm thinking is the fuel was spraying in the cylinder, the exhaust was opening up, and the exhaust valve maybe got really gummed up from that. So I don't know, that's just my theory anyways. But at this point, I don't know. I tried to buy an inspection camera and I found one that fits in the injector port here. It's only like a 1/4 inch wide, but I cannot find one with a mirror that fits in there. The mirror is always a little bit bigger. So I can see the top of the piston, but that doesn't really tell me much. I need to see to the side, which is what the mirror is for. So I would love to just look in there and see what's going on, but there's just no way. I mean, I can't find anything locally. I'm sure I could find something online, but I don't feel like waiting. So at this point, what I'm trying to do is take out this exhaust manifold so that I can at least look in the exhaust manifold and see if the exhaust valve is just really gummed up. If that's the case, maybe I can just clean it from the outside. I was running this a while, and then I would tighten this. I was running this for a while, and then I would tighten up the rockers, and then I'd run it again. And it was loosening up quite a bit, which made me believe that maybe it was just carbon deposits on the valve. And maybe the valves weren't closing all the way, which would mean that I wouldn't have a lot of compression. So here's the other side of the spectrum. I tried to do a compression test on this. The compression test kit that I bought doesn't really have a lot for injectors. They want you to go in through the glow plug. Well, this doesn't have glow plugs, so I'm trying to go in through the injectors. So they didn't really have something that fit this. The only thing I was able to do is I kind of have this makeshift one where I like put this in there and I put a little O-ring on the end and I can press it down just by hand. And there's definitely a lot of compression in there. It like blows right up to the ceiling. But it's not an accurate reading, because as soon as that compression hits, it blows that thing out of there. It blows the O-ring out of there, and it doesn't give me much compression. I can see though that there is a lot of compression just by like physically seeing it, but I don't think it's enough. So the only way to figure out whether I do have enough compression is to actually buy a compression adapter for this particular motor. So I ordered one and I tried to get it overnight, but I think I'm not even going to see it for a few days, because that was Friday night, so I probably won't even see it till Tuesday. So right now it's Saturday and I'm trying to get this figured out, because like I thought I had it all figured out, but I don't. All right, so basically what I'm trying to say is, at this point I need to get this exhaust manifold off. Ran into another problem with that. I only got one bolt off. There's 8 bolts altogether for the manifold. They're all like really rounded over, rusted out. I have no idea how they got in that bad a shape, but usually I can weld a nut on the end and take them off like that. So that's what I'm gonna try to do, but the problem is this muffler's in the way. Okay, so the muffler has 4 nuts that hold it on right here on this flange, and then on the front there's 2. Well, the front, I got those off. They're facing down, so they didn't have a lot of corrosion, so I just took those right off. So now I'm down to these 4 bolts right here. Actually, they're nuts, because there's a stud that goes from the exhaust manifold into the muffler flange here. So I'm trying to just cut those off for now, and then I can put new studs in there. I just need to get this off of here so that I can access the bolts for the exhaust manifold, so that I can take those off. And I figure there's a good chance that I'm taking this head out, because if I find something like a broken valve, obviously I got to take the head out. If I find that the valves are just dirty, maybe I'll just try to clean them. But either way, this exhaust manifold's got to come off. I'm just going to start it up so you can see what it sounds like. I ended up having to cut all 4 of these studs right here, and they were not easy to cut. I had to use a Dremel for a couple, and then I had to use one of those mini Sawzalls for the other 2, and that was not easy to do. Hopefully it's not too hard to replace these, but at least now I have full access to all these other nuts. All right, so I'm doing all the not so fun stuff here, but I got all of them. So I ended up having to weld a nut onto every one of these, except for this one. That's the only one that came out. But all the other 7 of them, I had to weld a nut onto them, and I'm just getting them off now. They're all cracked loose. Some of them nuts are like really crooked on there, but it doesn't matter. Look at all these. I'm just really thankful that I had the room to do this. I couldn't really get the nozzle straight for the MIG welder, so I ended up having to weld on the sides actually a lot. Like I welded the side of the nut to the side of the bolt that's already in there. But it works. They're all loose. So in a few minutes here, I'll hopefully have some sort of news. Okay, that's one way to do it. I got the little camera in there, and that is what appears to be the valve, the exhaust valve. One of the exhaust valves anyways. I'm gonna spin the motor over, see if that doesn't change. Alright, so let me give you another update of where I am here. So before I tear this head down, I wanted to make sure that I did all the procedures that I can do with the head on, which I kind of did a compression test, but it's not really that great because I don't have the right adapter. So I did a leak down test, and what I discovered was I'm at about 76%. So I'm at a 24% loss right now for pressure. I put 50 pounds in and I got 38. So if I put 50 pounds in, this is the one that puts it in. Then I put that on the cylinder. It'll go up to about 38. So what's funny is, before I did this, I actually was getting some air coming out of the exhaust, which means the exhaust valve was leaking. So I put this plate on here with a gasket just to try to eliminate that, to see what the actual cylinder is like what the condition is and how much it seals. And what's funny is, even with that plate on there with a really thick gasket, I'm still getting 38 pounds, which is approximately 76%. I've heard people say that 20% loss is acceptable, so this is at 26%. But then other people say that it shouldn't be more than like 10% loss. So if that's the case, we definitely got something going on the lower end, either in the cylinder or the rings, or possibly a head gasket. I guess it's possible, but probably not likely. So I think at this point, because I don't have the compression tester, I know it's leaking into the crankcase because all the air is coming up these ports right here. So I listened for the intake. There's nothing coming out of the intake. The exhaust had a little bit, but it wasn't enough to really do much. I think it was just because there was a lot of crud on the valve. So I think at this point, the only thing I really have left to do is take off this head and see what's going on. I really didn't want to get to doing that, but I may have to go even a lot deeper than that. So I think I gotta at least start there. And it's not too bad to work in here. These hoses are in the way a little bit, but it's not terrible. I think I'm gonna lift it up through the back. I'm underneath the front of the skid steer right now. So basically, I already took off the exhaust manifold, and that was definitely the hardest part. So now the only thing I really need to take off is the intake manifold, and then my coolant, like I think the water pump's up there, but at least the thermostat housing and the coolant inlet, and then just like a bracket right there, and then I gotta take off the rockers assembly and then take off the head bolts. So it shouldn't be, most of the work is already done with the exhaust manifold. That's definitely the hardest part. The next hardest part is going to be probably just physically removing the head, but it's only like 2.5 inches thick. It's not that bad. So let's just get right into it and get this thing out of here. I do like how this machine has nice access to all the different components. Like right here is a little port, just a little plate that you pop open, and there's the antifreeze plug. And I was looking it over, and if I need to get into the oil pan, I got plenty of room underneath there. One panel comes off, and it's like 3x3 square. So there would be no problem accessing the oil pan. It's actually a lot easier than on most trucks. So as soon as I drain this out, I can take these hoses off and just unbolt this out of here, take the fan off, and then I can have easier access. I can get all these different components out. This is for the heater right here. And just take the alternator out, intake manifold. I'll take these fuel injector lines off. It's really not that much work. This bolt's going to be interesting because there's not enough room for it to back out. So I'm going to have to get a wrench on there and get like a 1/16 of an inch at a time. And then it's got to pretty much come out right to here. And then I can take the manifold out, but the bolt never really comes out. It's got to stay in there. I just noticed that last bolt had a lot of oil on it. I don't know what that's from. I'm trying to keep these in order, so I'm going to keep them lined up like this and lay them flat down. That way I know what order to put them back in. I'm going to do the same thing with these bridges. I'm going to keep them in order. Not that it really matters, but the adjustment is going to be closer if I keep them in order. So all I need to do now is loosen these head bolts. I got the disassembly pattern right here, so I'm just going to follow that. Just looking at this right now for the first time. Definitely got some scratching on the walls. Alright, so this is kind of really weird here. This stuff here is like tarred on there, but it's coming up. I thought it was a scratch at first. When I felt it with my finger, I was like, oh no. But I'm like scratching this stuff off. It's like varnished on there. Other than that though, it kind of feels alright. This cylinder wall seems fine. I mean, it doesn't have the cross hatching still, but I think it'll do. But I'm gonna mic it out just to make sure. Varnished on there. I wonder how good the rings are. Maybe it's just the rings that I need to replace. This might be the problem right here. See how this piston is top dead center right now? This is the companion piston for this one. And I'm seeing right now that this one's a 1/4 inch low and this one's flush. So if I rotate the engine again, you'll see that the two middle ones will be exactly even. That's what they should be. See? So what that means is I have a bent rod. 99% sure of that. You can also see evidence of it because it leaves like a 1/2 inch lip on the top where you can see it's like honed down and right here, and then up here it's not. And these other ones only have about a 1/4 of an inch, which is about where the rings would be. So that one's about a 1/4 inch low, so we got a bent rod for sure. The weird thing is I never heard any knocking or anything, so hopefully the bearing, the journal, the crankshaft, everything's all right. Maybe I can just put a new rod in, put a new piston in, put new rings in, just put the whole thing in. Maybe I'll get lucky. I mean, there was no knocking, so it should be all right. Yeah, I don't know why that would have happened, but it's probably something to do with those valves. You know, I bought this for 17 grand thinking I got a good deal. Honestly, I never would have bought it if I had known anything like this was going to happen. But you know, it happened, so there's nothing I can do. I don't want to sell it all apart right now. Maybe I could get back 10 grand, but that's just ridiculous. I'll just fix it up and I'll use it for a while. And of course, as soon as I found this, a few days later, then I found a CTL60, which is like 10,500 pounds. It's like 2 sizes up. It's the same as a TL150. I found that one for 19 grand, but it was like 8-hour drive. I would have rather had that one, and I'm sure there's nothing wrong with it either. But that's the way it goes, so I mean, that's what I got to do. No point in worrying about it. I mean, I definitely had a couple almost sleepless nights, but I'm pretty sure I got it figured out now, so I think I'm all right, and you know, I'll just keep chugging along in it. I was supposed to have all kinds of videos for you guys this month, but I think this is going to take up a good 2 weeks between everything for it, so it is what it is. There's nothing wrong with this head gasket. I checked this over pretty thoroughly. I'm not going to reuse it, but I'm just saying that wasn't the problem. I think a valve hit the piston, bent the rod. Pretty sure that's what happened. This is the cylinder I was having problems with. There's nothing wrong with these valves. They're definitely gummed up and they might be leaking a little bit, but I'm sure once they get burning, all the carbon deposits will come out of there. But other than that, I don't see anything else that's obviously wrong with it. That's that little plate that I made to cover up the exhaust. So let me go back through the procedure with you of how I tested this. So I switched the injectors out between these two cylinders. That didn't make any difference. I had some air coming out of the exhaust port, nothing coming out of the intake port. What was coming out of the exhaust port wasn't enough to make a difference. You saw that in the leak down test. So I wish I had the adapter to do the compression test, because that would have told me a little bit more about what was going on. The problem with this, because I got it like this, I don't know exactly what happened to this machine. It could have been a whole bunch of different things. It could have been hydrolock from water getting into it. It could have been hydrolocked from other fluids getting into it. It could have been from some sort of foreign debris that was in there. It could have been from the valve dropping. I don't think it's from the valve dropping though, because everything was in place. The keepers were all in there, but it's possible that a valve dropped and that somebody just put the valve back together, put new keepers on it and slapped it back together. That's a possibility too. So at this point I have no idea what caused that, and I'm sure that the guy I bought it from doesn't know either. It's probably before him that it even happened. So I don't really know exactly how this happened. Let me know in the comments if you think I'm alright with just putting in a new piston, new rings, and you know, just honing the cylinder down and calling it good, putting a new head gasket on it and putting it back together. Let me know if you guys would do that. I know some people are going to say I should put all new rods on, all new bearings, all new, you know, get the crankshaft out, have that all checked out at the machine shop, and I don't think that's really necessary, but I'm going to do some research on it to see if people would go this route. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. So I know a lot of you know a lot more than me about this kind of stuff, so just let me know if you think it would be all right if I just, you know, just replace this stuff on that cylinder and call it good. I'm really hoping that that would be all right. I probably won't even make any moves until I put this video out, so I'm going to think on it for a day or two and, you know, I'll see what you guys say and we'll take it from there. Alright guys, so this is kind of going to get into a bigger video here, so I'm going to end this right here and we're going to go about this in a few days when I get this jacked up, get the oil pan off, get the rod removed, make sure that that's the problem, put new piston in, put new rings in on that one cylinder, and we're gonna see how that goes. But for right now, I just gotta kind of look up some parts, get things ordered, and take this more apart. But I don't want to make like a 5-hour long video, so we'll end this here and I'll see you guys on the next video.